Jury selection starts tomorrow in the trial over Houston's controversial Equal Rights Ordinance. Opponents allege the city wrongly invalidated thousands of signatures on their petition to put it to a vote. If the jury sides with the city and believes the signatures are invalid, HERO could go into effect immediately. If the jury determines the signatures are in fact valid, it will likely end up in the hands of voters come November. Now, the City Council approved the ordinance back in May. It bans discrimination, but opponents have taken issue with the parts that apply to gay and transgender residents. This is our topic this half hour. You can weigh in on our Fox 26 Facebook page or Twitter. Use the hashtag Fox26forlife. Joining us in our newsroom again is our Fox 26 Roundup panel led by our senior legal analyst, Chris Tridico. Hey, good morning again, Chris.
Good morning.
Seems like we have been talking about this for a year. I believe we have. It's so complicated, but really this trial boils down to just, are these signatures valid, right?
This trial is simple. This has nothing to do with the validity of the ordinance. It has nothing to do with the jurors' view of whether or not transgendered people should be able to use the restroom of their choice. This is about, did the city wrongfully invalidate signatures? If the jury says yes, then it goes to the voters. If the jury says no, the ordinance takes effect. But what you're going to see in this trial by the city and by Jared Woodfull, the plaintiff's lawyer, who's a frequent contributor here on the Roundup, is that they're going to be talking in jury selection about the potential jurors' views about this law and worry about the specifics of the case once they get started in the trial. Because if you agree with the law, Jared Woodfull doesn't want you. If you disagree, the city doesn't want you, and that's what they're going to focus on. Let me introduce our panel. Mustafa Tamiz, our political analyst, Jackie Bally, public policy analyst. We got off because Iskovitz was here, and we had to go with him first. So we'll start with you, Mustafa. And we appreciate it, Mike. We like having him on the Roundup. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's
okay. What's the difference if we put this to the voters? I mean, really, at the end of the day, if this goes to the voters and they vote on it, what's the difference?
Well, the difference is that this is not the question that the jury's being asked. The jury's being asked, did the city do the right thing by counting these signatures? And so if they vote against the city, then that means the city was trying to thwart this debate and didn't want it to go to the voters, and they, somehow magically made signatures disappear, which I don't think that's what happened. And a jury trial is highly unusual to take on issues like this. This is usually a matter of factual, law, like where a judge would actually sit down and look at this. This is the first time I've heard a case like this go to a jury.
But the question, the legal question here, for the factual question for the jury, did they wrongfully do it, is not an election law issue. It's just a fact question, isn't it?
And that was the argument that Jared Woodfull made, that it's not an election law issue. It is an issue for a jury to take. But I think it confuses the issue a whole lot, and
well,
we've
talked
a lot about it.
The city has to actually get this ordinance on the ground, because if, for instance, if they actually take it to the ballot, the citizens are going to vote against it. And I feel that's really the underlying reason why Feldman went against what the city secretary said when she said, yes, these are valid signatures, it's ready to go. And then he stepped in and said, no, they're not, and threw out over 2,000 signatures. I think that's why that was done, because if this gets on the ballot, it's going to, the residents are not going to vote for it.
I want you to respond to that. I'm going to go to Sally first. She's monitoring our social media.
Okay, so we asked on Twitter, do you think voters should ultimately decide HERO, as it's known? Ben says no need for Houstonians to vote when the result will ultimately be challenged and wind up in court, just like same-sex marriage.
Well, I mean, I don't understand that, because you always have the right, somebody always has the right, like they have here, to take these things into court. That shouldn't stop the legislative process that the city council is going through when they pass an ordinance and move it forward. So I disagree with him on that. I want you to talk about what Jackie was just talking about.
Well, we don't know how the Houstonians would vote, but we are the only big city in the entire United States that doesn't have an ordinance like this. And when it was going through, there was a number of people that spoke out for it. There's a number of people that spoke out against it. There were activists on both sides, but we don't know exactly how Houstonians would vote.
Well, the reason why we didn't have the ordinance is because we don't need it. There's nothing that this ordinance does that the Civil Rights Act doesn't do. And as we know, the Civil Rights Act has been implemented throughout times to be more reflective of how we are today. So that's the reason why there was no need for it. And he's right. Even though we don't know, we do know that you're having black ministers, Hispanic ministers, people of color who don't usually join with conservatives to block this ordinance, and you're going to see a coalition, and they're going to vote against it.
If, assuming that the plaintiffs win and this gets on the ballot, you made a statement to me last time we were talking about this off air that this energizes voters that don't generally come to the polls.
Yeah, this changes the makeup of the electorate in the next mayor's race. You will get people come out. And I don't think it's based more on ethnic lines. This is more based on people of faith, right? Religious conservatives versus progressives. And so I think that if you look at where the country's headed and the issue of gay marriage, using that as a barometer, 36 states have passed this. This is in the Supreme Court, and most analysts predict the Supreme Court is going to hold up gay marriage. So in the most progressive city in Texas, it's likely to pass.
Real quick,
Yes,
real quick. The people that it's going to bring as he's talking to the polls, but you've got this coalition of people that are generally voting Democrat that are now plaintiffs in this lawsuit.
And they're going to vote against it, and he's right. It is people of faith. It's not really ethnic lines. It's people of faith, and we have strong faith in Texas. And trends that are going on in the United States, we all know those are not trends that you see in Texas. And based on the votes we saw in last election, the conservatives came out, and that's what's going to happen again.
All right, we're going to have to leave it right there. And this is not over. No matter what happens here, you still have an ultimate lawsuit over whether or not the law is constitutional.